Now there is one pretty solid thing you can drink. It's kind of like a miracle potion, like an Estus flask. Hey everybody, Mark with Carnivox Academy here, and today I want to talk about something that's very important. As a lot of you know, I get a lot of questions in my inbox, and they're all really important questions, really valuable questions, and one of the most common questions I get, maybe not the most common, but it's up there, is do I have vocal damage? How do I have vocal damage? Or does it sound like I might have nodules or polyps or anything like that? My answer to these questions is always, I can't tell you. I'm not the guy, right? You have to go to a doctor, someone who's trained in this stuff, to look down your throat to see what's going on and give you the best answers. That's not my job. Even if I did, without the shadow of a doubt, know how to tell, yes, you've got nodules, it would be unethical for me to tell you that. So, my quick answer is, if you're worried about it, see a doctor. That's simple. But there is something that we can think about that can help us prevent those things from happening. Now, of course, there are no guarantees in life, right? But there are things we can do, processes and practices that we can include in our everyday life that are going to help make sure that we don't run into those problems, or at least lower the risk as much as humanly possible. Now, a lot of you know that I'm in a couple bands, Kardashev, recently Viremia, working on a black metal album, Never Breath. Been doing vocals for about 10 years now, and vocal health, paying attention to my vocal health, is not only what helped me get this far while still being able to sing and scream without any problems, but it's also what's making me realize that I've got a good long career ahead of me, and most importantly, I'm going to choose when I'm done. My vocal health isn't going to stop me and make me quit just because I have no other choice. Now, I work primarily in the metal world. That means I talk mostly to metal people. Sometimes these are clean singers, but it's all some variety of metal. So I don't know if this is like exclusively a metal thing or if it's across the board, but vocal health is one of the most overlooked things that I ever come across. People not even really knowing what vocal health is, or just kind of blatantly overlooking it because it's not fun, right? It's not fun to practice good vocal health. It's not entertaining. Don't get like that dopamine rush that you get when you're on stage. But let's think about it for a second. Musicians have instruments. Let's take a guitarist, for example. You gotta take care of your guitar, right? I have a hard time thinking that Lucas Mann or Tosin Abasi are letting their fretboards get all grimy and gross and gritty, or their strings are just going dead from being worn down, and they're saying, no, it's all fine, I'll just keep playing on these, doesn't matter. Now, I want to make something very, very clear. Some people disagree with this, but I wholeheartedly will say, as vocalists, we are instrumentalists. Some may disagree because our instrument is made of entirely organic parts. You can't see it. Everyone gets a free one when they're born. And actually, speaking of getting a free one, we only ever get one. So while a really awesome guitarist could, if they needed to, run down to Sam Ash or Guitar Center and buy new strings or buy a new guitar or take it to a luthier and get it replaced or fixed, we don't really have that option as much. And if we do, it involves medical bills. That part's depending on where you live. But for me, it would involve some very hefty medical bills. So let's start with the basics, because really vocal health is not as hard as you may think it is. But vocal health is something that we're doing pretty much all the time, whether or not we're doing it well. The best times to think about vocal health aren't just when you're on stage or recording, but when you're filming a video, or when you're at work, when you're hanging out with your friends, or when you're home by yourself. So let's break this down into two categories, and the first category is going to be how we use our voice. This one is pretty common, especially for people who are at a lot of shows or social gatherings, but don't try to speak over the ambient level of the room, and if you have to, use your diaphragm to control that speaking. Now, I get it. You just got off stage, people want to talk to you, they're excited about the show that you played, and you don't want to just be a jerk and say, no, sorry, can't talk to you, bub. But at the same time, you don't want to yell and scream over a PA. And you can't necessarily stand outside because there's only one person at your merch table, and you don't want to get a bunch of your shirts stolen. They'd probably just go for the money. They'd probably skip the shirts. Let's be honest. All 20 bucks, am I right? Whoopoo! Low blow. Ah, that hurts me in my past. But when you're speaking, make sure that your muscles are engaging. Make sure that your ribs are held out. Anytime that I speak, my stomach muscles are tensing ever so slightly, and my stomach itself is slowly moving in while the ribs are being held out, and my neck really doesn't feel much of anything other than a small vibration from my speaking voice. A lot of that came from doing vocals, a lot of that came from being at shows, practicing vocals, and also, talking for 8 to 9 hours a day when I was a debt collector for 2 years. Those were dark times. Ugh. The second thing, and something that you might not really think about, is get a handle on your throat clearing and your coughing. Now listen, I'm not saying never cough. If you need to cough, if there's something in your body, get it out, go for it. But one thing is that a lot of us develop those habits as little nervous tics. I used to do throat clearing, and sometimes I still do. I have to really pay attention to it, just habitually. And really, you can try switching this with anything that you find equally satisfying, because these are sorts of things that we do when we're thinking. Some people, they don't necessarily have to clear their throats. That's just how they start a phrase. Hey, by the way, how was your day? So I saw Star Wars. It was a movie. There are 2 places that I caught myself kind of just habitually clearing my throat for no real reason, and I switched it with a couple things. So the first thing, it's gonna seem kind of weird, but it's like a sniff and then a nasal emission. There's not really a word for it that I'm aware of, but it kind of just looks like this. So sometimes I'll start a phrase and I'll say, hey, so anyone else smell popcorn? I've lost my wallet 6 times today. The second spot was I would kind of cough and clear my throat a lot when I was thinking. So I'm reading over a document, I'm studying something, I'm planning out my day, and I would just go. And what I switched it with was. Now, the people around you might not love that a lot, so make sure you're keeping that factor in mind. But the point is, clearing your throat and coughing, it basically takes everything in your vocal anatomy, in your larynx, and smashes it together really hard and fast. Pa-pa! And we don't really think about it, but over time, that can cause strain and pain, and it's not very good for you. So slow it down, try to only cough and clear your throat when you actually need to. Next thing I want to talk about is vocal rest. Vocal rest is tremendously important. Alright, so there are days when I do vocal lessons for 10 hours straight. Well, not really 10 hours straight, because I have 10 minutes in between each lesson to fill up my water, use the bathroom, contemplate my life. But for 10 hours, I'm basically using my voice, right? And with all the proper technique in the world, sometimes at the end of the day, I'm not in pain, but I'm a little bit tired. My body's ready to relax, to take it easy. My larynx and my throat muscles, they just want to sit on the couch and watch The Office and chill. So vocal rest is key, because it's basically just going to let your body relax. It's not like a crazy concept. You don't have to understand a lot of deep science to understand that tired muscles need to chill for a bit. But there's this weird misconception that I see on the internet sometimes, that vocal rest is something that you do if you're a bad vocalist or if you made a mistake. Wrong. I mean, yeah, you want to do it if you do feel pain or strain or anything like that, but it's just as much a preventative measure as it is a reparative measure. I mean, think about it. If I got on this channel and I was talking about working out and I said, hey, you don't need to stretch at all when you go to the gym. Stretch if you feel pain, but before your workout, don't worry about it. You'd call me out on being wrong, and rightly so. Yeah, stretching can help, tightened muscles and tightened ligaments, but it also can prevent those pulls and strains from happening in the first place. And that brings me to the last section of how we use our voice, which is warming up. Now, I don't just mean warming up before a set or before a performance or anything like that. In the morning, warm up your voice in the shower. Go through the warm-ups that are in my warm-up video here. Do something that you found online. Really, if you're going to use your voice for a full workday, wake the voice up. La 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 la. Sometimes I see interviews with, big professional vocalists, and they're like, Yeah, I like never warm up. I never have. I don't know. I just kind of get on stage and it works. So it's, I know, like, I know I probably should. Ha. And listen, just because you sound good doesn't mean you're doing it well. And yeah, it's true. If you don't warm up, you can still make pretty cool noises. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? You can skip warming up and still sound good. It's harder, but it's possible. And it might seem cool to some people, like, oh, I'm so good I don't have to do those prior steps, that warm-up mumbo jumbo. But you know what's really cool? Being able to do metal vocals for a long time. Next, let's talk about what we feed our voice. Okay, well, we don't like feed our voice anything. It doesn't eat or drink, but the things we put in our body make a difference. They have a direct impact, right? The first thing, and probably the most obvious one, is smoking. Now listen, I'm not gonna get up here on this channel and say, quit smoking today, it's easy, ta-da. Listen, just about 10, 11 years ago, if you had met me, it would have been very common to see me smoking a cigarette, and even sometimes smoking a cigarette with a big old wad of Levi Garrett right in my cheek. Yeah, smoking and chewing at the same time. Anyway, enough of that. The point is, I get it. I've smoked. I was like a pack a day, half a pack a day for, 3-ish, 4-ish years. I know that's not the same as the people who've been smoking since they were like 13, but the point is, you can do it. It's possible. And if you need a lot of help with that, there are doctors and professionals who will help you get on the right track. But smoking has a direct impact. It dries out the voice, which means the vocal folds or even the false cords, they're not going to come together properly. Distortion's not going to be made. You're not going to have the mucus needed for lubrication. And tobacco smoke, or smoke in general, also makes microscopic changes to the actual surface of the vocal folds and the false cords. Now, sometimes people are like, oh, but that grittiness sounds cool. But you can get grittiness without the permanent damage. So, yeah. But I know quitting's tough, so if you absolutely can't, at least try to not smoke an hour before and after your set, at least, at minimum. But if you can quit, quit. The next one is alcohol. Alcohol in moderation is fine. Like, some people's bodies react to it differently. I enjoy the occasional cocktail, beer, or wine on the weekends. But drinking a lot can have an impact on the way that you use your voice. Now, yeah, there's a dehydration element there, but honestly, the thing that, as a vocal coach, I'm more concerned about is your fine motor skills, right? Your ability to control your movements. Because when we're doing vocals, we are doing a lot of things at once, right? There's a lot of coordination that we're going through. And so, if you don't have control over that, over the fine motors here, I mean, if it's hard to walk in a straight line when you're drunk, or, they've done studies to even show that, it's difficult to use a cell phone when you've had 2 drinks. How do you think you're gonna do with these fine motors in here? I mean, you might be fine, but probably not. Now, there is one pretty solid thing you can drink. It's kind of like a miracle potion, like an Estus flask. It's like an elixir for the voice. It's really cool. It's actually a secret that a lot of people don't know about or overlook. So I'm going to tell you this one quick trick to make sure that you are drinking the best thing for your voice before a show, and it is, are you ready? Water. Yep, that's right. Water. That's it. That's the whole thing. I hear a lot of conversations about like stuff to drink before and after shows. And while, yes, things can help a little bit, I don't know how the conversation goes so far. I've seen, and I've been in person where people talk about like quick fix drinks to do before a show, and they talk about it for like 2 hours, and I'm just like, just drink water. Like just drink some water. You'll be fine. Now, if you have something you like to drink before or after, like, that's great. I'm not going to take it away from you, right? Even if it's alcohol, I don't think you should drink that before a show, but you're a grown adult and I'm not your dad. But here's something to think about. While it's true that the sugar content in honey can, lubricate your voice and your throat, and while dairy does thicken the saliva, which can also create a coat, if you're having to drink those things to compensate for a dry throat, you're probably dehydrated, which is solved with water. Again, I'm not trying to be some like water elitist. You can drink whatever you want before a show. I've just I just have never found anything that was like some weird magical cure that made me a better vocalist on the spot. And anytime people are thinking about talking about like making some sort of tea or mixing these things in, I just think, well, that just sounds like hydration with extra steps. Anyways, those are some of the most basic parts of vocal health. It's very important. We are all practicing vocal health all the time, whether or not you realize it. And it's just important. Vocal health is just as important as knowing how to do a guttural, knowing how to do a pig squeal, knowing how to sing with clear, clean intonation, knowing how to match pitch. Vocal health is the thing that supports all of those aspects that we all want to do because they're so much fun. But anyways, thank you for tuning into this video. I wish you all good vocal health. Many thanks, much love, I'm out.